Morning. I want to talk to you a little bit about week 2, and I want to specifically kind of go over the instructions for the elements of fiction exercise. One thing I want to tell you, I'm going to be doing as many of these little mini lectures as I can, but kind of the process is going to be this way. I'm not going to post a video about a story usually until after you've read the story and then done the discussion board, because I kind of would be just giving you all the answers then. And if you remember what I said, I'm not interested so much that you're right or wrong. I'm more interested in how you develop and support your responses on the discussion boards, so you don't have to feel like, oh, you were really wrong or something like that if what I say doesn't really match up to that. So, but you'll find most of the time it does. So the first kind of official essay that you're going to do, and it's not really an essay, it's more of a, and you'll see when I go through the assignment, it's just more of an analysis, a way to break down a short story and discuss it in terms of the elements of fiction. And there's a lot of elements of fiction. We're going to only focus on 9 just to keep it simple. Okay. So we're going to look at those instructions. The instructions are kind of in 2 parts. The first part's the actual instructions for the writing assignment. The second part is a model or format that I want you to use when you turn this in. So I want when you submit this, I want it to look like the model in this set of instructions here. So this will be due 5/31. The way it's going to work is that, well, I'll go through the instructions, so we'll open those up, okay? Oh, I would recommend you go into that document that I posted earlier about elements of fiction definitions and take a look at that to kind of use that as a basis for your answers. So I'll open this up. So far things seem to be going fairly smoothly with our transition all online. I hope it's going well with you. I encourage you to let me know if you have any questions, any concerns, something that doesn't make sense to you. Sometimes I'll put in a link and for different reasons it won't work. Let me know if it doesn't work, and I'll go ahead and fix that. So, all right, so here's the assignment. So the first part's just the instructions, okay? So one of the things, this elements of fiction and story of an hour is actually this second part down here. We'll go over that in a minute, okay? So, but I want that to be the model. I want what you turn into me to look similar to that, okay? And then you can look at that elements of fiction definitions that's posted well, posted in syllabus and documents, but it should be also back in the other assignment for week 1. So the way this is going to work is you're going to read 2 stories, okay? You're going to read one story called A and P, and you can just click on that title and get to it. And you're going to read another one called Jury Over Peers, okay? So using the elements of fiction in the story of an hour as a model, I want you to provide a brief explanation of the elements listed below for either A and P or a Jury Over Peers. So you pick one of these stories. I want you to read them both. They're both pretty short. And I don't care which one you do, you know, the one that kind of makes sense to you. That's why it might be good to kind of refresh yourself about the definitions of these elements of fiction. So as you're reading along, you may say, oh, okay, that's what this is, that's what that is. So you pick either this one or this one, okay? But read them both. But your actual writing assignment will just focus on the one you pick, all right? So here's the 9 elements of fiction that we'll be dealing with all semester. I tried to cover a lot of those in that discussion, that video that I set up about story of an hour. And then between that and the document about definitions, you should be able to get through this pretty easily. So one of the things is plot, okay? Now in this writing assignment, you need to address, when you do this section on plot, you need to address all 5 of these elements, okay? So we talked a lot about exposition. So for example, we talked about the first sentence in the Story of an Hour. Usually it's not just a sentence. Being the exposition, we find out that she has a bad heart, and that's kind of important to know. Rising action is, so in Story of an Hour, it's like, okay, she finds out her husband's dead. She goes up to her room. She's kind of weeping and sobbing, and then this kind of realization slowly creeps up on her. And then the climax is when she goes, okay, you know, free at last. And the falling action is she's kind of thinking about what all this means now that she's free. And the resolution is the end, where Brantley shows up. She sees him. The doctors think she died of joy. We kind of know she probably died of disappointment, okay? And the reason she died too is that her poor weak heart just wasn't strong enough to take these kind of emotions. Narration point of view, there's not usually going to be a lot to say about that, but I want you to at least identify it as third person omniscient, second person, or third person omniscient, and kind of tell about why that's relevant. You're going to do a section on protagonist, antagonist. Remember, protagonist is the main character typically, and they go through some kind of change. Antagonist is usually some character or some force that influences the change in the protagonist. Conflict is what's really causing the problem. So we have in Story of an Hour a conflict between kind of societal norms or expectations, or how we impose roles on people, and her reality that, you know, she's free and she feels trapped and now she's free. Symbolism. When you do, so we talked about the symbolism in Story of an Hour. When you read Rose for Emily, I want you to maybe think about, can a character be symbolic? I'll kind of spill the beans. Yeah, it is true. Emily is a symbol. Now, I would like you to be able to decide what she is a symbol of to the people in the town. Setting can be the time, place, era, what's going on politically, or if it's in war, you know, all those kind of things. Is where is the story set? Because that can kind of tell us a lot. Irony, I want to just keep irony really simple. Think about it is, we know something somebody in the story doesn't know. We know that Louise died of disappointment, where the doctors just couldn't wrap their mind around it. That'd be inconceivable. They just felt, oh, you know, she was just so overwhelmed with joy she died. And then theme. Theme is a really good thing to explore because it may give you a context for a writing assignment. So we kind of talked about the theme of Story of an Hour being possibly that marriage can be an oppressive situation. It could be, you know, the theme might have something to do with love, possibly. So there's some things to consider. So I'm not going to change this to be announced. You know what the due date is. It's up in the assignment. So this is kind of, this part you would not complete in this exercise. This is just kind of an explanation. So you're basically going to do a breakdown of a short story that analyzes how the author uses various elements of fiction to make the story effective. I also want you to think about the idea that some of these elements aren't really isolated from one another. They kind of influence one another. Now, in some stories, we talked about Story of an Hour, where Louise, let me see. So the setting has a lot to do with the conflict, and even the antagonist in Story of an Hour So those two are really related because maybe this story wouldn't really take place in 2020 um, because the role of women is quite different in our society and our culture, okay? So by understanding how they work together, we can gain a deeper understanding of a story and possibly how the story might be relevant to our own lives, even if it was written in 1894. Now, for me, when I read this story, the one thing that I found most relevant is that statement about she couldn't understand how people feel like they have the right to impose their will on others, whether it be for a good thing or a bad thing. Well, I kind of believe that. To me, that's as relevant today as ever. What right do I have to impose my will on another person? I don't know that I do. Uh, so setting and symbolism are closely related and help lead us to a statement of theme. Again, don't view them as totally separate features when we get to the big picture stuff. They're very closely related to some degree. All right. So I am not going to read through all of these. I'm just going to kind of go through them quickly. So what your paper is going to look like, the thing you're going to turn into me to grade is going to look like this. I just want you to put the element of fiction that you're going to discuss and then write your response. And what I want you to do is make the case for give evidence for your response. I want you to show why you think that. Give examples from the text or little summaries of things that happen so you can kind of read through this. It doesn't have to be in this order. I don't really care. All I care about is that you have all 9 of them discussed. And you'll notice sometimes there's not really a lot to say about something. So we talk about narration. This one says the narrator is telling the story from the third person omniscient point of view. We know what she's thinking, but we get glimpses of what the other characters, her sister, Mrs. Ballard's brothers, and the doctors are thinking. So that's really all you need to say. Now, in Story of an Hour, it's a little more complicated because of the second person narrative, but we'll talk about that later in another video. So don't feel like, if you feel like there's just not a ton to say about something, you don't feel, well, let me tell you this right now, and this is probably what you need to know, and I should have talked about earlier. I'm much more impressed by quality than I am quantity, okay? So sometimes the short answer is the right answer. Sometimes an answer needs a little more development. I'm going to kind of leave that up to you. So if you have any questions about this, you can certainly email me, but I just want to be clear what I want to do and how I want you to go about doing this. So once again, all this, your thing that you turn into me in assignments in Blackboard needs to kind of look like this, okay? Again, I don't care what order you do it in. I just want all of these elements discussed. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'll be making kind of, not probably for every story, but for quite a few stories I'll be doing at some point some kind of video, or wherever I feel appropriate that I need to give you further information. I'll make one of these quick videos. All right, so have a good Labor Day weekend. And again, let me know if you have any questions.